All right, guys, welcome back in. We have no One Piece chapter here in front of us today. Instead, we're just talking to our good friend Par. And I was, sitting long and hard thinking about what topic to bring to the table. And I figured, what do you mean, oh no?
You said I was sitting long and hard. I was just worried.
No,
what do you mean?
dude, every guy sits long and hard. And,
okay, fair, but like when it's you, it's
and just like Archimedes from the ancient times, I came up with an amazing topic today.
Okay.
We are going to talk about Egghead Island because I feel like it's been so
Gross.
long since we've talked
Disgusting.
about it. Gross, yeah. See, okay, hear me out. I thought about it and I was like, man, it's been a minute. We're probably going to go there again after we get back from the break weeks. So I think we might as well brush up about it. And I just want to ask your opinion on what you think about the entire arc, right? Not like the Reverie, not like Garp, Shanks, or any of that stuff. Like just Egghead Island. Like, what do you think about it? What has not been answered yet? And what do you think is happening next?
Wow. I thought you.
It's profound, isn't it?
Well, profound.
That's what happens
crazy,
when a man thinks long and hard, Par.
No, but like when you said like, oh, I got a simple topic. Like I didn't think you actually the long and hard went very productive. Sit down there with this one because like like I think a lot of people forget we are in the Egghead arc and it's like I don't know, like imagine you called like we went through this yesterday actually on my stream where we were ranking the raids in One Piece, and what I found out is that the sea train scene, like T-Bone, all that stuff, that's not Enies Lobby, technically.
That's still Water 7.
Yeah, and so it's like it's weird to say, like naturally most people are like, everyone in the chat was like, no, that's Enies Lobby, just count that as Enies Lobby, and I was like, all right, fine, we'll do that, right? And I feel like it's similar here where like
you gotta separate it somewhere,
Yeah, like, do we even call what we got, like, the last 8 chapters Egghead? Because it's, like, not really fair.
What was your favorite part of Egghead? Well, I loved the throne room and the Marie Joie, actually.
Like, is Blackbeard's, like, invasion of everyone else, like, part of Egghead, too? Because, like, if you include that, like, I don't even know, Amazon Lily, right? Winter's Island, and now Pirate Island. Like, there's a whole Blackbeard arc happening here. I don't know. I
mean, same with Shanks. Like, Shanks has had so much screen time. This is the most screen time he's had in a single arc.
Oh my god. It's gonna feel like Whiplash when the anime gets here. Everyone's gonna, like, have to pinch themselves. Like, are we getting Shanks? This is it? And, like, it's crazy, right? So, as far as, like, Egghead itself, I think when we left off of it, was it 1078?
1079.
1070. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Half
we
the
got
chapter
like half
was
and
the
half,
Shanks.
yeah.
Right.
That's
Ooh,
like what,
that's
10 weeks ago?
Was it 1086? 1079? Seven chapters ago.
7 chapters
plus,
ago,
like,
but
breaks.
Plus, yeah. I think it's like 10 weeks.
Yeah, about don't skewer us in the chat. Be like, oh my god, it's actually 7 weeks.
Somebody has the date marked on a calendar. They're like, well, Par, let me tell you.
Yeah, no,
I love that. That'd be hilarious, actually. Please do that.
At the end of the day, it's like we left Egghead, and I feel like what we got there was all like prologue a little bit.
Yeah,
it's so weird because some people think. And I'm not saying this is what they still think. It was just kind of interesting, the reactions of how we left, where people are like, are we skipping it? Are we skipping the ending? And then we're going to see the results of it. Like, is there going to be a fight? Some people think there's a war. I think you and we were like teeter-tottering over this ending this year, but being like 20 chapters. Like, because early on, we felt like it was going to be long. And then...
I can't believe you remember that. Because we did make that exact assumption. We're like, yeah, about 20 chapters.
Yeah.
On
and
Egghead.
Then, the memory comes in handy.
They don't call you the Egghead for nothing.
Exactly. That's a real epithet I got.
That's gonna be the thumbnail. Just both of our faces in a photoshopped egg. People are loving the thumbnails.
I'm loving it, dude. I'm telling you, like, I see a lineup of thumbnails, and if those thumbnails are in there, I don't care what artist is there. Even if my own, just kidding. If my artist puts a thumbnail on another character, sometimes I click. But when I see those, like, yeah, the Brago, Brago on Pearl was crazy.
Even me and you with like Garp and Stelly. I
Nah,
showed my
can't be happy
wife.
about that.
I showed my wife, and she was like, "Who
No.
are these people?"
Nah,
said,
listen,
it's us.
listen.
It's us.
Now, people, I forgot what someone said something like, I forgot what they said. It wasn't even related to the Stelly thing, which like, whatever. But someone said I looked like some goofy ass movie character, and I'm like, I can't unsee it now. I forgot who said it, but that made me laugh. That made me laugh. The egg, I need to see these.
Just wait, they'll be good.
So like with the Egghead stuff, right? We started off thinking it was like 30 chapters, and then we started getting the ramifications of Saint J. Garcia on his way. Like technically, we don't know. And then,
yeah, it's still ambiguous, believe it or not. He just never made it ashore.
100 ships plus the narrator was hyping it up like it was Marineford, and then Blackbeard's on his way. We don't know about the Revs, but now that we know like Vivi and Morgan's is probably on their way, like it's feeling like it's gonna be a massive thing, and we don't know what the end result is. And I feel like everything that we got now, especially with the Reverie in line, it's like this is prologue. Like this is kind of prologue, and it's so weird to say that because I remember when we were in Egghead. When we were in Egghead, we were so like this isn't like an insult or anything, like, because we all did this. Like, we were so laser focused. Who's the traitor? We were like, look, it wasn't just me. It was a lot of people were like looking at panels, people, where they were, dialogue, like so ingrained in it, right? And now you think back and like, and put in the scope of what we're doing now with like the Gorosei, with the Holy Knights, with the Garland, and it's such a it's like a macro level now. It's super interesting that we did that with Egghead. And
I mean,
the one
just
thing
going into Egghead, we only thought it was going to last like 20, 10, 15 chapters. Like it was transitionary to a lot of people. Like that's how I felt. We got here and I was like, oh, it's just a small stopping point and then we'll go on to the next arc. Did not turn out to be the case at all.
Yeah. And like with Egghead going into it, right? Like it feels super important, like all the problems that we got in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I could be wrong on this. I could be 100% wrong on this. But, like, now that we got everything afterwards and we left Egghead the way it was, the York traitor, like, all that reveal is, like, Egghead intrinsic. That stuff, like, to me, doesn't matter outside of Egghead. It was literally just to keep Egghead interesting, like on your toes. It was a good way for you to have to revisit everything that people said, like all the details that people said. You know, you make it interesting by having a traitor that makes you look at every single Vegapunk and wonder, what's their motivations? What are they capable of? What are they doing? Where were they? All that stuff. But now that the Gorosei is on his way, is York gonna be that important, right? Like I doubt it, right? So like I feel like the transition idea is still accurate. I think it is the initial feeling is still accurate because of the way I'm describing it, but it's like one of the most important transitional like things any author could have done, because like we got like Devil Fruit, Awakening, like science, like so much lore, Void Century. Yeah, like that
that was a dialed down
it's a dialed down because that's like, you mention that to some people and they're like, ugh. They're like they get shivers a little bit.
Okay,
like,
hear me out. The reason why I brought up this topic was because of Rob Lucci. That is how I came to this topic idea, decision, whatever.
Okay, all right.
Because the other night, like, you saw the Brago video. We were talking about characters in Burning Blood, and we were like, oh yeah, Rob Lucci's in there. And I was like, Rob Lucci? Egghead. He's cool. So let's talk about Egghead. I gotta ask Par what he thinks about Rob Lucci now that we have CP0, showing up at Bourgeois.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the ultimate question then. What do you think about Rob Lucci? How does he fit into all of this?
Man, you catfished the hell out of me.
I did.
thought I started off complimenting your long and hard sit down, thinking about like, oh, how do you feel about Egghead? Where you at about like how important that is for the thing? I think it's important, blah blah. And then you're like, but Rob Lucci though.
But Rob Lucci, man, let me tell you, I still love the guy. Come on.
Yeah, see, that's another thing.
He's a wild card.
Okay, so I think it's valid when people have that cringe feeling, because when I asked like a few creators and a few people like in the community about why they disliked the what happened with Rob Lucci, with like the awakening, how he got it, how the fight went down, where he's at now, where he's like semi-alliance with Luffy, and then like we're memeing on them a little bit, a lot of it, but like
if you ask me, I'm a huge fan.
I think where I can connect to them is the part where I'm worried that like Rob Lucci gets put in the back burners. You know what I mean? Like he's such a cool like, I think this isn't controversial. Even if you don't agree with this, you can understand why people have Enies Lobby as their like #1 arc of like all time in One Piece, and Rob Lucci was the antagonist, and like there's so much like done right from Water 7 to Enies Lobby. He's like super cool, and to see him like very quickly being like domesticated like a house cat a little bit, you know what I mean? It's kind of jarring. I can understand why that was. I know that, for example, when you and I early on in the arc were playing with the idea that Lucci would team up with Luffy, there was majority of people were like, yuck, gross, how could you ever, this guy is an assassin who's cold-blooded murderer, Luffy would never team up with him. I'm like, you understand, like everybody on the crew is a cold-blooded murderer at the end of the day.
Everyone on the crew is, and Luffy is teamed up with way worse. We teamed up with Duval, a slave trader, just going around kidnapping girls left and right, and now he's like one of our greatest friends, right?
Like Frankie, like, that's just how it is. Up Usopp, like in front of that. Like,
he was the leader of the Water 7 thugs.
Yeah, that robbed, like almost killed Usopp. And then my favorite part, like a lot of people forget this, was when we went to Sabaody. One of the most knowledgeable, there's two people who are really knowledgeable about the human auction house. One was Sanji, which kind of makes sense because given his Germa connections, like he probably, you know, like as a kid, he was privy to that stuff. But then Frankie knew all about it because he bought the jewel tree atom on the black market. Like he was interacting with the black market. And the other part was, when they freed the people at Sabaody, like the slaves in the back, right? Like he had the key and he got it for Kami. And I forget what he said exactly, but I remember rereading what he said and not being able to like justify it. He's just like, here you go, slaves. He's just like tossed the key.
I think he said,
go free yourselves.
I think he said something along the lines of, well, since we don't need this anymore, I guess you guys can have it.
Yeah.
I guess we have to free you now. Like it's just on the way.
Yeah, I was like, damn,
I thought Frankie. That was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. hey! I think he was gonna let him go either way. So you know, it's just a Mortal Kombat fatality line, right? He just added the coolness points to it.
And then we go to like Caribou. Like when I made that video saying like Caribou, like at the end of the day, Luffy did say like, yeah, you could join the ship, like you not join the crew, but like be on the ship. Even just repeating what was written in the manga, that pissed people off in my video. And I'm like, come on, let me live. I'm just reading the chapter out loud. And then so we get to like, you know, this Rob Lucci guy, which, you know, when you kind of think about it, we haven't seen him do that much like evil on screen. Like we've heard about it, but we haven't, like there's no proof, right?
I'm gonna say that Rob Lucci has done no evil.
Oh god.
All of his actions are justifiable, just like Akainu.
Yeah, I mean technically, like when he was a kid, right? Like he took out like 500 people. Those are all pirates, and they were like actually destroying the island. So like he was doing a good thing.
He was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
People could argue that he went a little bit too far,
he was like 9,
destroying the Knights of the Kingdom. But you know what? I think he had a very valid point.
He was also 9, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're 9, it's like everybody's the enemy at that point, you know?
Yeah,
When you got
the
that
whole
much
world,
power.
puberty's the enemy. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, Lucci's no, not puberty.
Puberty hits you hard. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know when that happens, but it must
like,
have been bad.
I'm worried about Rob
guy?
Lucci's
Come on.
next puberty growth spurt, because I just don't want him to. When we go through the story, right? The moment you become an ally, you kind of get put on the back burners. Oda, if you're a side character and you're an antagonist, you get focused on. But like, I think about it in the same light of Carrot. I think about it like that, where it's like everybody's hyped for Carrot. Apparently, I didn't know that because I wasn't a part of the community after Zoa. When I joined the community, I was like, Carrot? You guys want Carrot for Nakama?
I never did.
And you know, I just pissed a lot of people off. But like, when I joined the community, I saw that, I heard that. And I told them, I was like, why do you want Carrot on the crew? You realize, like, the moment she joined, she stopped being cool because she stopped doing things. Like, the moment she like, not joined the crew, but got on the ship, right? We stopped getting, like, Brook updates, Usopp updates, Carrot updates. All these characters that are on the crew, they didn't get as much attention, and I hope that we get more attention. And I just feel like when you're on like Luffy's side, you get like overshadowed, right? And Oda's not gonna flesh you out because you're not the antagonist. I feel like the same thing happened with the Scabbards, right? We had the main dude Kinemon, a little bit of Denjiro, Ajira Doshi, which is like a fan favorite, just got wiped, and then who do we know the most of? The antagonist, Kanjuro, right? Like, other than that, it's like, you know, like, if we go like 20 chapters out further, like another year, some people might forget the Scabbard's names, right? Like, it's kind of crazy.
That's just how it happens. I mean, like you said, most of them don't have a well-developed backstory. Like, it's there, but you know, it's like very wishy-washy. Like, it's not anything solid. And it kind of reminds me of what Oda said, and obviously he didn't apply it to this situation. I'm kind of just using it for this one too. But yeah. Oda mentioned about like, oh, in the beginning, I just wanted to make a story about the emperors, and then I introduced the warlords, and then I realized I might have introduced too many by making them 7. I sometimes think back and I wonder if Oda feels that way about certain characters too, like the Scabbards. Like, I wonder if Oda ever looks at the Scabbards and says, well, I made 9 of them, or technically like 10 or 11, but you know, maybe I should have made them a lot less, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, yeah.
I would love to like interview him, or like, you know, get a booklet of like his ideas and like where he went, what he kind of regrets, how he feels about certain things. I think it'd be so interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. That because I forget. I think that was an interview. I don't know if it was
that was an
SBS.
interview.
Yeah, where he said like I think he's literally said, I wish I made 5 warlords instead of 7. And that to me was like super eye-opening, because he's, at the end of the day, he still made 7 and he still doubled down. And I think this is also, I forget, but this might even be before he like revamped the warlords in importance and brought them back
time
into
skip, I think.
Yeah, it was like that, right? And that when he said that, and once I received that information, I sat there and I was like, what about the Holy Knights right now? Like, that was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that.
You got like 9 Holy Knights. You just introduced them. What are you doing?
When I saw the 9 silhouettes, I was like, Oda, you might be falling into bad habits right now. Because, like,
you know what? I like it. As much as we call it a bad habit, I think for the fan base, it's good though, right? Like, in a way, it extends the story, and we just have to hope that the Holy Knights, for example, get more fleshed out than the Scabbards ever did.
Okay, so like,
I'd be damned if they did it. It goes back to what you said too. Like, they're antagonists. They're not on the back burner. The Scabbards, no matter what they did, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody ever saw them and said, "Wow, they're gonna take down Kaido." We looked at them and said, "Okay, yeah, you know, Orochi, that makes a lot of sense." People are already putting the heads together, right? Yeah, because Zoro was there. Zoro was there.
They all hold swords, so why would they do it, Zoro?
Yeah, they had swords, so I mean, I guess Kaido was always going to be Zoro's opponent, so the Scabbards just made zero sense to me.
Let me tell you, if the Holy Knights are holding swords, it's raps. The community's like, Zoro solos all the Holy Knights.
Bro, you have no idea. The main Holy Knight had a sword in the silhouette, right? And people were saying that was going to be Zoro's opponent. And I was like, but guys, what about the Gorosei? What, like, aren't they like a step up? So I held the poll too, and people came to the consensus that Shanks would fight the Holy Knights, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. I like that one.
I like that.
But Zoro was 3rd place. I had Zoro, Shanks, Mihawk, and Dragon. And I think last place was Mihawk, which, I mean, I wasn't really on that boat to begin with, but I just threw him out there for fun.
Wait.
What's up?
He was third place in who would fight the Holy Knights?
Yes.
Okay, so it was Shanks, Mihawk, then Zoro.
Shanks, Dragon, Zoro, Mihawk. So
Okay.
Mihawk was last place. Justifiably so. I don't really know why Mihawk would say, wow, like, I don't want to fight Blackbeard, Luffy, and I don't want to fight, Shanks either. So it's time to fight the Holy Knights, right?
Yeah.
That would be kind of random, but...
That's it. I've been seeing, so now that like we're out of spoiler territory, I've been able to go on Twitter a lot more, and bro, like
you could finally leave the house. Leave the cage.
Like I didn't realize how goofy, like, because there's so much to. Okay, this is like a quick tangent, but like there's so much to talk about with 1086.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I get it because like you can't group the conversation in under one umbrella, but I did not think that Zoro, Mihawk, like Figarland would be like the top of the conversation. I've been seeing like Morge started a giant like Twitter thing, and that spiraled out to all the other creators and a bunch of other people, where it even reached me. And it's crazy if it reaches like me, because I'm not on Twitter, and like I'm just like, are people really like there's no shot for Garling is that weak. Like, I don't know.
Wait,
I just feel like I saw
weak?
Yeah, because people were saying like, oh, like Mihawk, the Gorosei guy, Garling, and Zoro's above them already, and they were kind of contemplating
wait, people are saying Zoro's above Mihawk already?
Not above Mihawk, like Mihawk's above them. And
Okay.
then Zoro, and then some. It's either like the Gorosei Zoro, this guy, or the Holy Knight Zoro,
Ain't
the
no
Gorosei.
way we're top of the verse already.
And I'm just, well, it's not even that, where it's like, I think the thing that Morge brought up was like, will Zoro fight someone stronger than Mihawk before Mihawk? And I'm like, that reasonably started a wild card. Almost want to ask Morge, like, he knew what he was doing with that, right?
Oh,
and
yeah.
And like, and I'm just sitting there like looking at various takes and how passionate people are. I'm like, it's so interesting. Like, you throw out like the title from chapter 52 or like 49, World's Strongest Swordsman. You flash 1,000+ chapters in, and it's like the weight that carries is like, woo. And then you got like,
the
these
dead
guys
girlfriend going on with that too, or dead cousin, I guess is the better way to put it.
And then you like the godhead, like where we have gods, like the guy is godhead now, godhead Venus Nasujuro, right? Like it's like, and then the guy Figarla, he distinguished himself at a place called God Valley. And then you have Mihawk, who didn't interact with any of these guys, and it's like, now shouldn't we question like where the world's strongest swordsman comes first? And then like, I don't know, if he didn't fight gods, then and then Ryuma's called a sword god, and it's like these guys.
And then Mihawk technically has never visited Wano to our knowledge, showed no interest in the land of samurai. Hey, yeah. I'm still coping for Mihawk. I still think he's one of the strongest.
I think he is one of the strongest. I explained it to Dax, where I was like, I think that the Gorosei specifically are gonna be like, they're gonna be strong in the sense of like hacks. Like, they'll have like some kind of hacked ability that like it's just not fair. Like like you're gonna have to bring out like anime stuff to like deal with that, and it's not just like swordsmanship in punching anymore. It's like, no, they can like
reality.
Yeah, and
divine
like make
abilities.
you change your mind and stuff like that. They can like mentally disturb your brain, and then you're like not willing to, like Perona's ability, right? Like Zoro got hit with that, and he's like, yo, this is scary. This is a scary ability. And like, that's kind of what I see for the Gorosei. They're gonna have some like cracked abilities like that, and we didn't see anything in that light. But what we did see is that Sabo got one tapped, and then he's like, ugh, and then he needed a crippled man to stand up for him. So it's like, I don't know. It's all interesting in scope. And to tie it back to the Lucci part, it's like, where does Lucci fit in all that? Where is he God Knight? Like, we were debating if he was Admiral level, right? If he's not above Admiral, and then we have Holy Knights now, and then we have the Gorosei now, yikes. You know what I mean? A little yikes. Because then it's like, then you'd put Lucci almost at like fodder control. You know, if
I
he's
hope
below
not.
admiral.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I hope not, but it's really interesting when you think about Rob Lucci in the grand scheme of things, because like I said, we just met CP0 at Marie Joie, and coming back to Egghead, yes, quote CP0, like they were kind of fodder, but
they got robbed by Wapol.
Yeah, they got robbed by Wapol and they had no idea what just happened. They're like, huh?
Yeah,
like you know, like how like in a
hippo?
video game you just walk by a bad guy and then there's like a little detection meter and it hits orange and it flashes, but it never hits red. So it just goes back down, and then they're like, oh, what's that noise? Like, that is what CP0 did.
GTA cops.
Yeah. But, like, going back to Egghead with it, Rob Lucci just being here with the Straw Hats, helping them out. Like, how will this look in front of the Gorosei even? Like, you know, it's like, will he have a home to go back to? Well, he already had to leave the world government once and then come back. Will the same thing happen again? Will they understand his situation? Like, just, it doesn't really make too much sense.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it does make sense, but there's so many possibilities with it, is what I meant.
It's kind of open-ended because it's like Lucci is an awakened leopard, right? And he fought Gear 5 Luffy, Sun God Nika.
He didn't win, but he didn't win. He was still up there. They were clashing in speed.
Let's add into the mix. We have Seraphims that we don't know where to fit them in the future. Like,
Seraphims are weird, bro. Like, we outclass all of them, right? Like, in terms of strength, you see Zoro just knocking one back, Lucci, Luffy, even Kaku was joining in on the fun for a minute, but they're just not taking damage. Like, we just don't know their downsides yet, because Zoro didn't explain it to us properly until it was the end of the fight, essentially.
And they're technically nerfing themselves because they're relying on devil fruit powers when we saw what King is capable of in the... Like, if each of these dudes are capable of even a fraction of what King did in the episode, and, like, I'm saying episode because, like, the manga... It fits. The manga and anime fits. It's just like, if you watch the episode, you'll understand unless you're the One Punch Man artist, you're not drawing that in the manga. It's like impossible to do. And
hey, shout out Yusuke.
If shout outs. And he, like, if they're capable, right? How many do we have now? We also have S bird, S lizard, S reptile.
I like
right?
how you got them all wrong. Wait, did you do that on purpose?
Wait, isn't it S bird? Like,
S flamingo.
Yeah, but, like, do we go with... It's not S, like, boa constrictor. It's S snake, right? Like, so Oda's gonna do the base animal. So, the only one that's weird is the gecko and
he called,
reptile.
Mihawk is S hawk, though. He's not S bird.
You're right.
So it'd be, like, bird. S flamingo and then S... I guess it could be S lizard, but I feel like S gecko's more... It's easier.
Yeah, I don't think he could do S lizard because then crocodile would be S lizard too.
No, and then you called crocodile S reptile.
yeah.
For a minute there, you caught me off guard. I was like, okay, like, interesting choices. And then when you got crocodile wrong too, I was like, okay, he's me, big oddly. Like Par took a second just to find all the wrong answers.
It was just funny because before our dreams materialized, that we got randomly, like, Vegapunk got like all the money in the world to make the extra 3 here. We, like, people were debating, it's like it's S bird, like, so passionately, like, are you dumb? It's S bird, not S flamingo. And then or S mingo, and then side by side. And
S mingo, like, I'm cool with, because
S sounds cool.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. It makes sense.
I guess we gotta figure out how they say it in Japanese.
That's like saying, no, they're not gonna call him S bird. They're gonna call him S avian.
S avian.
Yeah, just go back.
S flying thing, like S UFO. Yeah, that'd be great. Wait, that's actually
attacked Las Vegas the other day.
I want to. If Buggy has a Seraphim, that's dope, right? Like, that'd be cool. But, like, at the end of the day, we have what 4 plus 3, 7, possibly an 8th one. Like, we have 7 of these things, and where do they fit in? Like, is Lucci should be able to dog walk them, but, like, can he? Like, where are we just gonna trivialize the Seraphim? And you brought up the Tobi Roppo earlier, And I remember this being my my thing with the Holy Knights, where when the Holy Knights got introduced, I was like, you know, they're gonna be cool until they're not, and that's what the Tobi Roppo were. Tobi Roppo as antagonists, like when they got introduced, it was cool. We question why they weren't like on Wano and they're just like doing nothing in Onigashima the entire
chilling,
time,
bro.
Which is like interesting. But you know, when it comes to Tobi Roppo, even as antagonists during the raid, they got memed on. Like, we joked on them saying the Vega Force 1 solos the Tobi Roppo, and
I wouldn't say they got memed on.
Bro turned into a helicopter and Frankie pulled out a sword and like rainbow
That was
Rio.
dope. That was dope. Like the V saber on Sasuke, like that was kind of cool.
The
like,
anime
even
did it
Black
justice.
Maria. Like, come on.
The anime did it. Black Maria had the own Yudo,
Bro,
like the dog thing swinging around.
The only bad Tobi Roppo, in my opinion, is Drake.
Drake, yeah, I mean, like, he has the double whammy of being in the worst gen alongside like everybody else who just gets like, because again, the worst gen is now being showed as allies, right? Like every single time we get shown the worst gen, who are they? They're not antagonists. And what happens to them? They get put on the side. The only person that didn't happen with technically is Law, because we put so much focus on Law that like an entire arc was like around him, right?
Yeah, not even Oda thought he was gonna do that.
Yeah,
I still think that's a really funny interview. Oda was like, "Yeah, Law." Like, he was like, "I thought Kid was gonna be really popular, but Law just took the spotlight. I had to give him more scenes."
And that tells you, it's like once you're an ally, you get put in the shadow, and that happened to worst gen. Drake has the double whammy of being part of the Tobi Roppo and the worst gen, and that did not do his character like any good. Especially, I didn't even watch the fight he had with CP0 in the anime. I was looking forward to it. But
and then you just forgot it happened.
No, I just like figured, like, given everything else that was happening and nobody was talking about it, that like they probably just kept it the same way it was in the manga. It was like skipped through.
Apparently
and now
they're going
kind of
hard on it.
Oh, are they?
I don't know about the Drake portion. I don't keep up with the Drake news, but apparently Izo got more scenes that made it justifiable as to why he died. That's what I heard, at least.
I did hear that. I figured that, like, in the when we got in the manga panels, I was like, oh, they're gonna flesh out this Izo scene more because it's tied to Usopp. It's tied to a Straw Hat, whereas Drake didn't necessarily have all that. He was tied to Apu, like, so, and Apu just left him.
Another worst gen.
Yeah. So
and then go wait, one more, but dude, I just remembered, but Apu and Hawkins. You know, sorry to the 3 Apu and Hawkins fans out there, but they're so fodder that they didn't even make Tobi Roppo. They were just headliners. Like, imagine that. Like,
worst gen and headliners.
They got put on the same level as Babushka or Babanuki. Sorry,
Babanuki.
Yeah, Babanuki. Hold them. Like, they're on that level, bro. Like,
that's gross.
That's kind of sad. I kind of hope they made it higher, to be honest. But it is what it is.
913 and 914, that's the chapter when Hawkins fights Luffy and Zoro, and it was kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
like
he brought out the
sick.
straw man, and I was like, wow, like Hawkins is glowing up. I was like, I might have to bump him up on my list. And then
Killer slaughters his ass,
but then again,
loses to Law.
The anime made it look really cool though.
True.
Like when Hawkins lost the arm and he was like on the floor, dude, I forgot we're talking about Egghead, man. I feel like we're going everywhere but Egghead. Like, we're, like, avoiding it or something.
It's because, again, Egghead...
It's that arc,
largely,
man.
As much as you want to... you can say this as hindsight, really, only. Because when we were in it, we were really... Like, we were... like enticed. We were in Egghead, but now that we're off of it, I think it makes sense to look at it as a transitional thing. It makes it so that you have to like put everything else into perspective, because you got so much demonstrated, so much lore demonstrated. We learned so much about, like, even from the revs from that. I honestly, we learned more about the revs during Egghead than we did about during the Reverie, right? Like we have to like put everything with a grain of salt when it comes to like what Sabo, Dragon, and Ivankov are saying, in line of like what Vegapunk told us. And like, again, like when it comes to like the Lucci, Tobi Roppo, like going back to what I was saying, it's like I just when it came to the Holy Knights, it's like they can be antagonists until like cool antagonists until they're not, and I just hope that they don't go the way of Tobi Roppo, where it's like it's not a situation where Oda looks in hindsight, it's like, damn, I wish I made 7. I wish I made 5. Like, and we're kind of getting a little bit of that, like with the Holy Knights, right? Like you brought it up too. It's like, is Zoro fighting them or is he fighting the Gorosei, right? Like, do we have 9 so that there's extra for other fodder, kind of, not fodder, but like fodder allies, right? Like the stronger allies that would be formidable in the grand scheme of One Piece world, but in the light of like Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, they would all just get like no diff. And then do they get other Holy Knights?
Like,
right?
How would you feel if? I think it's kind of a cursed idea, but the Holy Knights going against the Grand Fleet. Like, imagine Leo gets a one-on-one, Sai gets a one-on-one, Ideo just pops up and he fights Garling. Like, I don't know. Like, there's enough Straw Hat Grand Fleet members to do that, to have those one-on-ones, but are those the fights that the fan base or Oda wants, though? Because surely even Oda knows, like, if you compare height between allies, like Hatakuri, for example, right? Like, he's kind of an ally. Big Mom's kind of done for. He might come back and help out later. Yeah. Would you rather have... I'm trying to think about who the leader of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet would be, if minus Luffy. Maybe Bartolomeo?
Barto, Cavendish are probably the strongest.
Let's say Cavendish, to make it easier.
Yeah.
Cavendish versus Garling. Would you rather have that fight or Katakuri versus Garling, right? Like, I feel like the fan base would be kind of skewed on that one.
Yeah, I think, like, okay, so, like, Katakuri is a very good pick. Like, as far as Garling goes, I don't think it makes sense to have them there.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like, one of the...
Just like a random throw fight, like, no background story. Just in an arena.
Number 8, number 9, Holy Knight, give it to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could see that. Would Cavendish would go crazy, but, like, at the end of the day, Cavendish stocks are kind of high up there because he was in the same group as like Ace and Law when
he's
were
a super
like,
rookie.
Yeah, prior to the current worst gen, like he was in the same light as Law and Ace, and that's a big group, despite like how much we meme on like pre time skip like value to Ace, but you know, I think that does make sense. Like, I think it makes sense why we got these really strong allies, right? Like I played with the idea. The video's still up, even though like 90% of it is wrong. Like, I do like the fact that like the reasoning behind what I said still makes sense, and I think it makes sense for why Kaido didn't awaken, but it also explained like an admiral coming, and then an admiral came to Wano. But what I said was, like, if Kaido comes back in the story, because I think a lot of people are still on the like fence of like, you know, yeah, maybe we can't theorize when and where, but like I think it's like Big Mom and Kaido. Like, if Big Mom comes back, and I know a lot more people believe that, then I feel like it's weird not to bring back Kaido and King, because the King being the actual Lunarian, it'd be weird to just rely on the Seraphim to carry the Lunarian story. But that aside, it's like we bring back Kaido and King, whose like story revolved around Joy Boy. And I was like, wouldn't it make sense that they would become very strong allies? And it's not an anime it's not just like a One Piece thing, but like there are times where your past like very strong antagonist ends up showing up in the last battle and taking on one of the primary people. So maybe it's Kaido versus one of the Gorosei. Kaido and King take on like a Gorosei or two or something like that.
That's I could see that, dude. I love that. It's an anime trope, and it's always prominent in every show, right? Like, even I guess this is a horrible example, like the Avengers, right? Like Endgame. Like, when you have that giant world-ending threat like Thanos, everybody has to come together and sing Kumbaya for a second to destroy him. And I feel like that's how Big Mom and Kaido are going to be. They're going to be like, well, we don't like Luffy, but then again, he beat us, so that was kind of cool. But also, there's like people trying to destroy the world we live in, so I guess we have to help out and beat a Gorosei real quick. Like,
it's
not that crazy.
Like, I the way I'm picturing it is the fight starts out without them. It's not planned, and then they show up. They show up
out of nowhere,
and then,
like last minute.
And then it's like one of those things where the Gorosei, like, they're not like down on their knees or anything, but they're like a little fatigued, and they're like, "Are you serious right now?" Like, they look up and they just see the two Yonko, and they're like, "God damn this!"
You mean 3 Yonkos? Because Buggy's gonna be there too.
Yeah, Shanks is gonna be there, right?
Crocodile,
we have to figure
Mihawk.
out. like whether Shanks starts off as an antagonist or starts off as an ally, I think people are on the fence about that, depending on how much stock you put in antagonist Shanks and how much of him, like maybe he's under duress, right? Like in that regard, like he doesn't want to be an antagonist, but there's some kind of plot that makes it so that he has to be, or his mind is controlled or
he's
something.
Like the Garlands are pirates. Like who do I side with?
Yeah, like there's some, whatever it is, like Luffy's gonna end up having the Yonko on his side by the end of it. Blackbeard's an interesting one to put in that mix. And hey, then we have like 5 Gorosei. The total of 5 would be Kaido, Buggy, Big Mom, Buggy plus Cross Guild, we'll say that, and then Blackbeard. You have like a cloud of like 4 to 5 strong people, entities that are in there, and I'm including like King in there because I feel like King would make sense, but then also Doflamingo. I feel like Doflamingo has to fight one of these celestial dragons, whether it's the Holy Knight, Gorosei, because his story is like the heavenly demon who's a celestial dragon who wants to like tear down the celestial dragons for like
he wants to destroy the celestial dragons. There ain't no way Doflamingo doesn't show up to maybe not help Luffy, because people don't want that mindset like, oh, like Doflamingo helping the Straw Hats. Never. Sure, let's say they don't help him, but it's adjacent. Like they can do the same thing and not be correlated. Like, yeah, Doflamingo will be there. He'll probably destroy some celestial dragons, and then he'll go on his day.
Like, at the end of the day, we do know that Doflamingo is willing to work under people for his greater goal, right? Like, he doesn't care. Like, he was afraid of Kaido, Jack, King, and Queen. He was terrified
and then
of them.
Now you have the Straw Hats who beat those exact people, and it's like, I don't think Doflamingo would want to work under the Straw Hats, but he respects power, right? Like, he didn't want to fight Kaido. Do you think Doflamingo's gonna want to fight Luffy, a guy that not just did Luffy beat him, but he also beat the guy that he was afraid of? So it's like, I don't mess with him.
Yeah, and like Luffy's pet cat beat Jack, or pet dog, right? Like, so then it's like, is Doflamingo running up on Inuarashi at this point? Like, even that's terrifying as a result. And it's like, you have the Minx. Oh, we have to throw in the Minx. We have to throw in Queen Carrot, right? Like, she's gonna show up as a Sulong, and she's gonna do something. Who is she fighting? Is she fighting fodder, or is she fighting a Holy Knight, right? Like,
I kind of think that's why we have so many characters here, between the Holy Knights, Celestial Dragons, the Gorosei, the Seraphims. Like, there's just so many people here, and I think it works out in a way. And I don't know. The one thing I really hope for is that Oda fleshes out some of these fights, and they don't feel throwaway. Like, just give them the Raizo Fukurokuju treatment. I think that was pretty solid. Like, for 2 characters that people didn't really care about, like, they got some strange 2-chapter fight treatment. And I was like, you know what? If Hideo, Cavendish, and everybody else gets something like that, I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah, I see. Hideo's a good. Is it Hideo or is it Blue Gilly? Because both of them are both like the long leg, long arm type.
Gilly
but one of them
is the long leg. Hideo's the long arm.
So actually, one of them is actually. I think it's Hideo. He might be long limbed. So there's actually a hybrid of. So a lot of people don't know this. I bring this crazy up in my Amatsuki Civil War video, but prior to the Void Century, there is a I believe in the SBS or somewhere mentioned, the wiki brings it up, I think it's noted in the manga at one point, 1,000-year war between Long Arm and Long Leg, and it gets ended by the Void Century, which I bring up in that video, where it's like, that's a civil war. We have 2 people who had a fight, and the thing is, in our timeline, we see the hybrid, which is the long limb tribe, which is the long arm and long leg having kids, and this long limb, which apparently I guess they were just like, we don't want to be better than both of us separately. I don't know what the logic was, but then I think it's Hideo who's like cracked, because he's just like insane. I really like his character design. Maybe I'm alone on that. I like Hideo's.
No, I think it's cool as hell.
Yeah, I want him to be bolstered up, but then you have Blue Gilly. Maybe they get team up, and the way I kind of see it is, maybe it's like these Holy Knights take on entire factions, right? Like, maybe one faction takes like the Minx. Maybe you know what would be crazy? The Shepherd. Peter, he takes on all of the Minx.
He takes on every animal on Earth.
Yeah. Because he's hurting them.
That would be so funny. What a goofy scene. If you're an animal, go this way. Shepherd Jupiter is gonna fight you.
No. Even crazier. Like, Zunisha rolls up. All the minks are on them. They have a plan to go help out Luffy. I don't care how you say his name. Saint Shepherd. Let's say it for this context. He had his observation haki, which is non-existent at this point, gets triggered in the middle of the battle. He leaves. He's like, sorry guys, I gotta go take care of something. You just see Zunisha roll up right to the red line, and there's one man standing in front of them. And he's just like, time to herd these animals. And you just see like Conqueror's Hockey Blast, and Zunisha's like shivering because it's also being shepherded. Oh my god. I like to
imagine it's like a RPG. He gets like a 10% damage boost against animals.
No!
Like you see it pop up right above his head. Damage boost applied. Like what the heck?
He gets that one dog, like the one dog that rounds out like thousands of sheep. He just has like a spirit animal dog, like Ushimaru, the fox thing.
Yeah.
And then all the minks, like when that dog shows up, all the minks jump out of Sulong. Like they're just like, they just
our
like
memories from the void
back.
century are coming back. We can't fight this man. You know what we sound like right now?
What?
We sound like two little kids meeting up at a playground, and we all brought our toys, and we're like, "Oh, who's gonna fight who?" Like that's what it sounds like. But, and I'm sure that's how some of you guys see this too. Like, oh man, these guys are going wild. But these are questions that I think are very valid. Like, who's gonna fight who in the final war? We're in the arc, right? Like, we're in the final saga. I feel like these are valid questions to have. As silly as some of this sounds, in the near future, right, 2-3 years down the line, we're gonna be looking at this and we're like, oh wow, we finally know who, Shepherd Jupiter is gonna fight. And
yeah.
I think it's a funny idea, but like maybe it is the minks, maybe it is every animal known to mankind. Who knows?
It would make sense that he's the reason why, like, Zunisha can't, like, if any of them put a contract on Zunisha, it would be the shepherd, right? Like, that would kind of make sense. Yeah. And like, hey,
he was his ancestor.
I really like that analogy you made of us, like, playing around, like, with toy and then figuring out who, like, imagine.
I used to do that as a kid. That's why I came back to this. I was like, oh, yeah.
I think it's a universal thing, like, to play fight with, like, toys, even if it's not, like, an action figure or whatever. Like, a pillow, like, oh, this is a waterfall. Like, at the end of the day, I think what? That, like,
a pillow, like it's a what?
You imagine like it's like a mountain with a waterfall and like
a pillow,
like you put it as a terrain thing. Like, oh no, the mountain fell on top of that. Like just random. You use whatever's around you in the room. The floor is lava, that kind of thing.
Fair.
And I would go out on a limb and say, maybe Oda does do that. Like, I would imagine he has like a battle room with all the figures, and he's just like, choo.
He does have a big house, and there's a lot of clutter in there, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Now the way Oda storyboards, like, I just got happier because I just imagine like he's like, before he gets a storyboard, he's like, it would be cool if Inuarashi goes Sulong and goes, and he just like
and then he looks at his assistants, he's like, write that down.
They're just sitting on the side watching him play with the fingers.
On a real note, though, I think Oda only has a couple of Straw Hat figures, right? He only has, like, I think 5. He doesn't even have every Straw Hat, does he?
Yeah, because he doesn't need them. He has that in his brain, but he needs all the other ones, right?
Yeah, he has, like, 10 books of them, like, sketchbooks and ideas. He's like, I don't want the figures, man. Get them out of here.
Yeah, but, like, even with the Straw Hats, he has to use the One Piece wiki for their moveset, right? Because he forgot what they can do.
Hey, it is what it is, man. He has too many chapters, too many characters. If you want to talk about character fatigue, Oda definitely has it. If he says that he has to look at the wiki to remember movesets.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
And so, like, as far as what you said about, like, I hope things are fleshed out, I agree. And, like, an example I would like is, like, Frankie versus Senior Pink, right? That was, like, so random, and it was so quick, but it instantly made, like, you didn't even need Senior Pink to, like, tell you, like, you didn't need, like, chapters ahead of time. You didn't need, like, this whole, like, connecting complex thing. It was literally, like, a quick flashback, and you're like, oh, no, I'm in here now. Everything makes sense.
And it was like less than a chapter.
Yeah.
That's all it needed to be.
hey, I want more for the Holy Knights, sure, but like I hope there's like a concise like thing that wraps around them. And you know, my like I haven't posted the Holy Knight theory yet, but like I explained it to you, where that theory would be a whole, like it would just box in an entire explanation, and then you can give a flashback to each of the characters very quickly and have this overarching thing that makes it so that all of the Holy Knights are explained. They each are really interesting. And now like while we were talking, I was thinking like maybe all of CP0 turns and fights one Holy Knight. Like that's kind of what I was thinking, like where it's like each faction takes on a Holy Knight. Yeah, like something like at the end of the day, how important are the rest of the Holy Knights gonna be? But then are each of the Straw Hats gonna take on one Holy Knight? You know, another idea, and I think I talked to Joy Girl about this, was there's a world where each of the Straw Hats do take on a separate like entity on their own, even if they're weak, but they end up being like the commanders of their own situations. Like everybody behind them, everyone in front of them, they lead them to victory against like these insanely powerful individuals. And I could see that, and that would make a lot of sense. What would be really cool about that is the part of like that would make all of the interactions the Straw Hats had, which each of their antagonists, so much more important, right? Like Nami versus Khalifa and Nami versus whoever else later on. All those people fight underneath Nami. You know what I mean? Like all the antagonists that each Straw Hat beat, they are underneath that Straw Hat at the end, and then they lead them. We
kind of saw that in Egghead, right? Like Zoro with Kaku, Luffy with Lucci.
Yeah,
like, I don't think it's too crazy.
So that's why, like, I again going back to what you said. It's more toy fights,
but I'm all for it.
Yeah,
hey, meet me on the playground.
When you get to the Egghead part,
over there.
It's a transition. I think it's an appetizer. I think Egghead was done really well if you take it at face value for where it's placed at and what we expected for it, and not like what we expected of it after we got it, right? Because after we got Egghead, it's like or like once we start going to the Shanks and Garbs, we start realizing like the Egghead is a lot smaller in reality, and our initial reaction is like, okay, we left Wano, we're probably gonna slow down a little bit, there's gonna be a little bit of like a break, a transition. I think that's still accurate, but this is the most important time.
I'd argue there was no slowdown. We just kept on going. It might have like decrescendoed a little bit, but we went right back to it. Like it did not take long.
It's kind of like post Enies Lobby, you know, like there was a lot of like Kuzan with Robin, Garp like showing up, introduced, the lore about the emperors. Like there was a lot in post Enies Lobby that was really cool, but it did slow down a lot more, right? I would say like you get that kind of feeling post Marineford, but like you don't slow down like the action and hype along with it, but like those transitions were so important that some people like regard them as separate arcs, right? Like post-war is its own separate arc.
Yeah, post-war, post-Enies Lobby, all that stuff.
Yeah. So like Egghead's appetizers. Like one of my favorite, Brandon King, Time Lord. If you guys know him in the chat, he has a breakfast theory. The One Piece's breakfast, and I've been analogizing Wano as appetizers to the Last Saga entree. I think like Egghead is like a good brunch, you know what I mean?
The first 1,000 chapters were all an appetizer. Now we're about to feast.
Hey, that leads me into the thing that I want to ask you for my video.
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys want to check that out on Par's channel. It should be up relatively soon. Maybe in members only. We don't know yet. But it'll be
I'm doing these members only for now.
See, look at that. He's paywalling it. Kill him, guys.
Well, I don't
Celestial Dragon Alert. Celestial Dragon Alert.
I don't got the pull like you do. I don't get the views, you know. And then,
I don't think it's gonna get views either. I mean, we're just two people talking. The only reason we're doing this is because you guys asked. You're like, man, we love Sai and Par. Do more discussions over the break week, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna call Par anyway. So I guess we can work something in. Why not?
I remember we came into this into the break week month so sad. We were like, oh, I guess we're never gonna talk. And then like the next day, it's like, hey, do you still want to talk? And then you're like,
it's like an ex or something.
Yeah, like
haven't went through this since college.
We left the last call see you next month, bro. I'm gonna miss you.
Hey, summer break's gonna be long, man.
And then we messaged each other the next day like, hey, about what we said yesterday. Do you wanna Do you want to talk every week
That
still?
sounds about right. That sounds about right. So
I remember telling my wife too. I was like, "Oh, like yeah." I forget what she said. She's like, "Oh, like you inside this week." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, babe. We're not talking anymore."
I like how you apologize here. I'm sorry, honey. Sorry's not coming over.
Yeah, because she was like making because like, you know, this is a scheduled block. You usually record at the same time, and so she was playing around. And I was like, "Oh, like, you know, we could do this instead."
She's grabbing lunch with the girls or something.
Yeah, and then like I told her, it's like, oh, me and Sarah aren't gonna talk for an entire month. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, honey. And then the next day, I'm like, oh, babe, guess what? Me and Sarah, we're still going strong during the break.
We're still going strong. What a way to word it.
No, show up in a bathrobe, crazy.
I have one good question I'm gonna ask you.
One good question.
The only good question in this entire video, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think is gonna come for Vegapunk after this arc? Do you think he's gonna make it out? Do you think he's gonna go somewhere safe? Do you think he's gonna travel with the Straw Hats? I feel like I've asked everybody this except for you, which I could be cap. I feel like we probably talked about this, but what do you think? What do you think about Vegapunk now that we got like the revelations of the Reverie? You know, we know about the Mother Flame, whatever you want to call it. Like, with all that in mind now, how do you feel about him surviving? Because personally, I still think he's going to make it out of this. Mm-hmm. But see, it's hard. Like, I'm even like debating if he's gonna make it out alive or not. But if he does make it out alive, I feel like he won't travel with the Straw Hats. That's my bet. And I feel like we're gonna have to drop him off somewhere safe. And I sound like a lunatic saying this, but I feel like that might be Wano. Since it's closed off and the world government won't know about it, I feel like it's set up for Vegapunk to go to Wano. Yeah. But that's where I put my stock if he survives. What about you?
We did talk about this earlier on without the scope of all of Egghead in line. We didn't talk about what happens to Vegapunk after, because honestly, at the end of Egghead, we didn't know how soon Egghead was returning, and then we got lost in the sauce with all the stuff with the Reverie and the Gorosei and Emu. So like, nobody cares about Vegapunk afterwards. I've talked about that, and I'm glad you asked, because I've been wondering about this. I think one stipulation is how smart is Saint Saturn, right? Because he's the science defense war godhead, right? Or martial god, however you want to translate it. Like, you could look at it as our reality, which is that a lot of times when you have a political leader in terms of science, like the head of science, from a government standpoint, they're not usually like the smartest people. They're smart enough to know, like, this is wrong, how to use things, and understand like the science jargon, but they're not the people pushing the science, right? Yeah. So like, maybe he's not as smart as Vegapunk, but you would imagine like the Gorosei science defense, like yeah, he's using Vegapunk, right? But like, maybe there's a reason why he needs Vegapunk. Maybe it's that he personally can't interact with all this stuff because he's dealing with much more stuff, right? We don't know the scope. Maybe he's allergic
to technology.
There's a whole thing where it's like, certain people in power, you end up getting introduced them in fiction where they separate themselves from the world and they let like the modern people create what stuff is available there from a standpoint of like, it's a weird standpoint in some stories. Some stories do it right, where the person thinks it's unfair for them to use their abilities against the current time because they're like primordial, right? And so they dumb themselves down, or they bring themselves down to the mortal level, or they don't want to if they introduce technology to the world, then they know that the rest of the world is gonna get it, so maybe they can't do stuff like that. Like, there's so many explanations.
So
could see.
So where would you put Saturn then? Would you rank Saturn higher or lower than Vegapunk right now?
I don't know. I don't know right now. It's such a because we don't know enough of the introduction. Like, Oda didn't. We got a name, right? We got a name, and like we got some dialogue about how to use Mother Frame. But the thing that bothers me a little bit was them saying like, oh, we can test this out. Like the only way we'll know if this works is if we test it out. And for me, it's like usually like if I made a scientific invention, right, like I did in college, and then my dean came in and like, yeah, they would want me to test it out, but they would also be able to like inspect it first and be like, this is dangerous, like this will explode, or this is a hazard, this won't work, this will work, oh, go ahead with the test, right? You have to do from some safety stuff, but they were like kind of like, oh, we'll only know if it works if we test it out. And that to me is like, it's too intricate to say, like, put that logic into the story and say like, yeah, Oda's thinking about that with this regard. So I don't know where he is. I just want him to be smarter. I want the Gorosei to be like experts in their field rather than just figureheads, you know. But it's weird because we went into the Gorosei like last year, right? People thought that they were just figureheads, whether they were just knowledge, they had their power based off of knowledge, or they were strong. That was a huge debate, right? And now it's like, now we know that there's some strength, some powers. So what about the figurehead side? Are they just figureheads, or are they also justifyingly those figureheads? A lot of people are on the fence about that, and I don't know. But going back to the Vegapunk thing, we did talk about the idea that Vegapunk ends up on Wano because Wano being the fortress. I love the idea that Pluton is there. Vegapunk going there. That is the one ancient weapon that we didn't really get a full visual of if he recreated. We see weather stuff, and that Uranus weather stuff is connected. Poseidon, CBC King connected, but Pluton we don't necessarily know unless Vega Force and the Iron Giant and Frankie, General Frankie, Thousand Sunny, if that's supposed to be a line into the Pluton, we don't necessarily know. But I like the idea that Wano becomes like the gathering spot of all of the people that ally against the world government, because it's a fortress. But also one of the main things that we learn, especially on the outset of Wano is massive. It's so massive
and closed off,
and it can house everybody, like literally everybody. Each region can hold an entire nation.
And wait, like Wano isn't even at its full capacity either, because it's bigger once you break down the walls. We're still working at half mast. It ain't hard yet.
It ain't hard. And then the inside of the mountain is all, there's stuff inside that mountain, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't know what's at the top, but we know what's in the middle.
And they just got Onigashima, which is like a +1.
Onigashima's, you saw what it did to the Thousand Sunny. Like everybody was there. Somehow King and Zoro had their fight and nobody noticed. I'm gonna point that out.
There was a giant magma dragon outside and nobody heard the knocking on the door.
No, like Luffy and Kaido like were banging on the rooftop, and some people felt the Conqueror's Haki, some people felt that. But let me tell you, nobody saw the nuclear magma laser beam happening outside that Zoro like literally slashed through, and there was magma being tossed towards Onigashima to the point that you and I both were like, everybody should be dead. Like everybody died if they actually carried off into the thing, right? And then you zoom out, right? Because Oda did do this. They zoom out of the fight, and you just see like their two ants like on the edge of Onigashima.
Yeah, it's like little toys fighting on the outside. It's like, damn, yeah, everything's so small. Wano's huge.
So, as far as like Vegapunk and what outset of for the story, I still am leaning towards the same difficulties that you're having, which is like, does it make sense to keep him in the story? Not necessarily. I like our initial idea. As memed as it is, I like the idea that one way or the other, he does leave. But he's at a diminished capacity.
Yeah.
I
think we came up with this right when we saw the dog.
Yeah.
The dog, the recycle cur, which people forget about too.
And then we found out about the egghead, like the brain thing afterwards. And then we're like, wait, no, we weren't wrong. Like that does make a lot of sense. That like, are they gonna, if Vegapunk leaves, does he bring the brain? And if he doesn't have the brain, is he lobotomized? Like, yeah, he is.
Oda, this is gonna sound so stupid. Hopefully people get this reference. Oda loves his references to cartoons, right?
Uh-huh.
So we have Vegapunk, a genius, big head, whatever, inventor. He's just like Jimmy Neutron. And who did Jimmy Neutron have? He had Goddard, bro. The Jimmy Neutron theory. Wait.
Goddard literally was Recycle Cur, by the way.
Yeah,
he just
Goddard
ate
was
trash.
Recycle Cur. He ate trash. He was a smart dog with the brain.
Yeah, he helped.
Wait, there could be something here.
Yeah, and like Jimmy Neutron Lil broed Goddard way too much, but at the end of the day, Goddard's...
There's no way Oda watches Jimmy Neutron, though. I refuse to... Like, Tom and Jerry makes sense, old school cartoon. Jimmy Neutron makes zero sense, though, right?
Jimmy Neutron was goated.
When did Jimmy Neutron come out?
I think Jimmy Neutron's an international thing, too, a little bit. It's interesting because...
2002, I think it is. That's before Vegapunk was even introduced or mentioned. 2002, yeah.
You know, you don't even need Jimmy Neutron. Like, I was talking to another creator, Kev Dog, about a theory. I told him the entirety of it, and the interesting parts, and I'll leak it here, is Flintstones and Jetsons. Like, I've been seeing, like, there's been a theory recently that connects the two worlds, and I like the idea because if you whether the theory is right or wrong or debunked or whatever, you could apply that to the One Piece world, the overall logic, and it makes so much sense of like, just really quickly, it's like the Flintstones, they're cavemen, but they have planes, but they just like are stone. And it's like weird because they have the concept of the future, but they are like in the past. And it's like you see that across the One Piece world where they have like futuristic stuff, but they don't even have electricity. And it's such a weird thing that it feels like they had it, but then they got removed and then they kind of like coped with it thereafter. And then you have like this realm of like futuristic stuff that did exist. And in that realm, going back to the Jetsons, there is like a few things that were like you could tie back to like Vegapunk, like the computer. I think the computer in that thing, I forgot they also had an acronym for it as well. But they also had like the maid that was a sentient thing. But then they're also, get this is one of my favorite part. The daughter, I forget her name. She had a sentient journal. See, she had a sentient journal that she spoke to every night, and it was like it could regurgitate it. It just told her the stories out loud, and I'm like, wait, that sounds kind of...
would love that one. Don't tell her about that.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there like, yo, you apply that journal to like what the poneglyphs are. Given the poneglyphs are from the Void Century and they're part of the ancient kingdom.
That would be so much easier. Imagine the poneglyphs with his voice recorders. You just hit play and it just tells you everything.
I mean, that's what I literally think that they are. I think that, like, but the thing is, I feel like I didn't watch the episode, so I was going off of like my memories and what the like synopsis of these characters are saying. But this journal was like a Neuralink kind of thing. It just like hit you with it. It just hits you with it. And I feel like that's the parallel with like Laugh Tale, right? Like there's something there that you like interact with, and then it's like the Neuralink. You just get linked to the poneglyph or linked to the record. Similar to what we're seeing on Egghead, right? Like they have these antennas and then you get linked to that thing. And I'm imagining like the moment you get connected, it's like, goddamn, this gives me a headache, but like I got a lot of information
now. Yeah.
Right? And so without that information link up, what happens to Vegapunk? He lobotomized himself. I think I like the Recycle Cur idea. I've always liked it. People can meme on it as much as they want, but like at the end of the day, that makes a lot of sense for what like reincarnation, right? Like if you think Buddhism like is a big part, right? Like, and you get reborn into an animal, here you get a scientific version of that, right? Like it's kind of interesting.
Don't forget the Jimmy Neutron connotations, which I just looked up. There is a Japanese dub of Jimmy Neutron, like a legitimate one. It aired in Japan before Vegapunk was introduced.
Goddard is goated. And Recycle Cur, the moment, like, because I think we had the same idea, and then you brought up the Recycle Cur idea, and then we ran with that. And like I like that. I love that entire like premise of like Vegapunk continuing in diminished capacity, because then it gives Frankie the spotlight. It allows like what's her face, Lilith, to go with Neo Mads. Shaka's dead, Edison, whatever. It lets these other satellites get some shine, and then he's still there, and maybe he returns by the end of it. Maybe he doesn't. But I like the Recycle Cur idea.
Now that I think about it, when Vegapunk was first introduced in that last panel, He had the got a blast moment, huh? He was kind of just blasting off with Luffy and Chopper on the side.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, maybe I'm looking too deep into. Yeah, I'm just blast. Like blindfolders on, just looking for the Jimmy Neutron references. But I'm like, wait a minute.
He does have the Quasar. You know, like Jimmy Neutron had that. I forgot what that moment was. Brain blast. And
brain blast.
Oh man, that was such a good.
And then Neo Mads could be his high school group. Like maybe Carl is Queen. Sheen is Judge. I don't know, man. Or Caesar. Yeah, just correlate Jimmy Neutron characters to Mads and Neo Mads and everything. That'd be so goofy.
Cindy is what's her face? Stussy. Oh, there we go.
Hey, maybe there's something here. Maybe for next April Fool's Day, if this isn't true and Vegapunk doesn't become Recycle Cur, I think this would make a really good April Fool's video.
I have a few April Fool's video lined up. Honestly, I need more April 1st to come.
Dude, yeah, I have so many good April Fool's ideas, but I just can't post it because I feel like people won't enjoy them naturally. So I gotta post it on April 1st, which one of them is it has to do with Charlotte Opera. And it's like, dang, one idea that I do miss and I wish still played out somehow. I still wish that Caesar and Judge Show make an appearance here. I feel like they still can. Like last we saw, they talked about going after Vegapunk, or like Vegapunk was the cause of all their problems. Mm-hmm. I think it's still in the cards. I've definitely dialed back my hopes for it.
Don't do it.
No, don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. What's up?
Because hear me out. He gets turned into the Recycle Cur, right? That's like the easiest way for the Neo Mads to get the leg up, right? They might even meme on them like, haha, you filthy animal. Look at, you're finally in your place, dog. Like, like they just look down. That gives them the moment. And then it's still Vegapunk though, right? So in like at the most important moment, they're all stuck. And then Vegapunk as Recycle Cur shows them up and puts them back in their place, and they're like, oh yeah, not Vegapunk.
That can definitely happen.
Yeah,
I see
it. I see that. I like that. That's the way.
That's crazy. We are in the final saga to where we're in so deep. There's so many characters that can make an appearance at any moment. Everybody's colliding. All these stories are moving forward. There's too much, man. There's too much. It's an overload.
All I'm gonna say is, don't pull me out. Don't pull me out, coach.
It kind of feels like what's it called? It kind of feels like Doctor Strange in a way. We're looking into the multiverses to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's there's 10 billion possibilities. Which route is Oda gonna go? Right?
Not gonna lie, I shuddered when you brought up the Doctor Strange thing, given recent stuff. But the 14 million.
What happened to Doctor Strange? Did it get canceled or something?
No, like the House of Madness or whatever.
Oh yeah, that movie was yeah.
And the outset of all of that. They have a recoup possibility, but the 14 million possibilities. This is the one. Hey, Doctor Strange, I need to see why it was the one, because it's not looking too great right now.
You know how it is. Last thing I want to bring up. With Egghead Island, and I think you may know where I'm going with this one. What do you think is gonna happen? I see you're like trying to decipher. You're like, oh, what is he gonna talk about? What do you think is gonna happen with York?
Yeah. Once you reclarified, see, that's where earlier when I was saying like, I feel like we should regard Egghead as a transitional thing, which means that like the amount of importance that we were putting on York, the traitor, all that stuff. Like I see a lot of people, and hey, I have no qualms with all the people's theories of saying like, York gave them Mother Frame, or York did work with the Celestial Dragons to a higher capacity, or York is with Blackbeard. Sure, all those things can happen. I feel, and I could be alone on this. I feel like what I like the most at the moment, maybe it's because I don't like York or the satellites. These satellites weren't given like that much importance even on Egghead, right? Like the Stella, like the satellites were giving Stella the importance. And I feel like at the end of the day, the Vegapunks, like, if York does something as grand as kidnap all of the Celestial, the Cypher Pole, plan out this thing, and some people are saying that they made Mother Frame, Mother Flame, Mother Fraim, whichever pronunciation, whatever translation you want to go with, and they gave it to the Celestial Dragons and Eam. I would like for there to be parallels for the other ones that are in the same scope of it. Like, you know, like, yeah, we have the Labo phase. Yeah, we have like some things, but like Stella doesn't even have like crazier stuff. Like, yeah, we have the microwave thing. Yeah, we have Vega Force, but Vega Force, is that not like the legendary Iron Giant, like over the years of studying? Whereas Mother Frame, how long were they making that, right? Like, can they make something like that in secret? And so if people want to give this grand expectation for York, I would like it for the other satellites to have an equal contribution of some sort on their end in an equal time frame. I don't know if it makes sense to give York such a grand like level of importance as the mother, like sole creator of Mother Fraim or whatever. And maybe that is the way, but the way I see it is York got minimized as an antagonist the moment we left Egghead and we saw Shanks, we saw Garp, we saw Blackbeard, we saw Eve, we saw the Gorosei, and we understand, and the Navy going there, and the Gorosei is on the way. Like, I feel like York is going to play a pawn, like a plot moving position, and whatever they did, it just set pieces in the right place. It made it so that we would have to focus more on the story. Without this trader arc, how natural would it feel for us to get a lot of the information that we got, right? We have to realize that a lot of the information that we got, for example, CP9 and Luffy's fight, that's how we learn about Devil Fruits, that's how we learn about Awakenings, that's how we learn about the Seraphims. Like, we needed some kind of conflict, and I feel like York is just playing the role of driving that conflict. Outside of York being there, like, what other entity would it make sense to drive that thing, right? The only person would be Vegapunk themselves or someone outside of Egghead. But in order to give Vegapunk more importance than satellites, I think you need to make it in-person, like, antagonist, and I think the role fell on York. And as far as how far it lends itself outside, I don't necessarily care for York that much, and I also don't think it needs to be York to, like, make, like, Egghead interesting. I think there's plenty of interesting things on the way that, like, York's not really that necessary. York just put all the pieces in the right place. That's how I see it. And I could be wrong. But I think I can say, like at this point, like, yeah, York could go the way of Sentamaru almost, right? Like, Sentamaru felt really important on Sabaody. He just, like, brings the pacifistas. He, like, told us some things. He gave us that weird poster card of Ohara, you know, a postcard of everyone smiling on burning Ohara
first.
And yeah, and then, like, York, like, it's not like they need to do anything more than what they have already done, right? Like, sure, they're gonna have a role, maybe a few more chapters, and maybe Oda gives more reason for York to be important later on. Is it necessary? Not in my opinion.
Fair. I feel like I kind of feel the same way you do. Like, York might not be that important in the grand scheme of things. I think one thing that York could do in the future is just show us what a new celestial dragon is like, how they get processed into the Holy Land. But even thinking about it, which is interesting, since the Holy Land doesn't have any food right now, York becoming a celestial would actually be a great meme. Imagine she does become a celestial. J. Garcia Saturn picks her up, brings her back to Marie Joie, and she's like, whoa, yeah, give me the food. It's gonna be great over here. I'm living life. And then they're like, wait, we have no food. We only have cake. York, we got nothing for you. I think that'd be the greatest meme. And I feel like that is where we're heading with York. I feel like it's just going to be a giant joke.
I love that. That is funny. And it could very well be that case, right? But something else that I realize could... No, this would be hilarious, though. This would be arguably the funniest thing, in my opinion, right? We think Saint J. Garcia is going for the Seraphims, right? It can't be for Luffy or Nika, right? Because they already left prior to finding out that Luffy was there. We still don't know, like we've been talking plenty about in discussions about the light that needs to be erased. Like, apparently we're going to learn about that in the flashback, because that still hasn't been revealed to us yet at least like unless we're supposed to assume who it is or what they were talking about, right? Like, is the VV Desire thing, is that the light? Like, I don't know whatever it is, but at the end of the day, after whatever happened at the Reverie, Garcia already was on the way, already commissioned Kizaru to take him to bodyguard him, which is crazy that he needs a bodyguard. Sure, whatever. But they did leave knowing that their food sources were gone. What if Garcia is only going to Egghead for the microwave? What if he goes there and everyone's like worried, like, oh my god, like Vegapunk's like, you're here yourself? And he's just like, yeah, hand it over. And then he's like, no, I can't, not my Seraphim, they're just children. Don't make me do it. And then like, not Vega Force 1, not Labo Phase, not this. And he's like, what are you talking about? I just want the microwave, bro. And then he just
don't forget, man, when CP0 first came here, they said that they don't want to destroy any of the inventions that are on the island.
It's the
it could literally be the food. I would want it, right? Like if imagine this. I come to your house, I knock on your door like the holy man, and I have 3 presents, 3 gifts from God just ready to give to you. One of them is an ancient weapon, something that could destroy anything in your path. The other one is a creation tool. You can create any life form you desire. But the third option is a microwave that can cook any food you would want in your entire life. What would you pick? Like, it's obvious. You pick the microwave. And that's how I feel like it is here.
I like this idea that Garcia shows up. Everyone's just like, oh no. They're like protecting what they think. They're like, oh no, not my crew. Luffy's like, not again. Oh, Sabaody flat. Like with all the parallels. And then he's just like, bro, like, can I just get the microwave real quick? I'm starved. Kizaru's tea and crumpets sucked ass, bro. Like, I need this
That could be it, man.
Oh, God.
Egghead is just set up for the memes.
Atlas. Or no, I think it was Atlas was like, oh man, and we tried to build this elsewhere, but everyone's too stupid. This is the only one that is in existence, and like that might have been inserted for like how valuable that thing is. Where like Garcia is just like, oh, this is the holy grail. This is it. Who cares about all this other stuff that you built? This is the most important thing, right? Like. You don't know, like, we don't know what you need to put in. It said, like, you need ingredients, but what are the ramifications of those ingredients? Can you have Aramaki just make up a bunch of, like,
could you just
plants
put the
and
cake
trees?
In there?
Yeah, put cake and get stuff out. Like, I'm interested because if you have Aramaki, right, he could grow everything you need. And then you just put it into the thing, and then it spits out great food. Like, that sounds... Hey, if I was the Gorosei, I would go for the microwave. You know,
I would go for everything. I'm a winner take all kind of guy. I would just take everything there.
But if it was like, you know, like Blackbeard on Amazon Lily, right? He took Kobe, right? Like, hey, his decisions, he can take little kids all he wants. But like with the Gorosei landing on Egghead, there's a bunch of things. You can also have the option of taking the little kids, which are the Seraphim. You can go for the Cloud, the lightsaber, the Bug Attractor, but the microwave. Easily the microwave. Like, what do you want? The clothing machine, Kinemon 2.0? No, you want Strawson 2.0, the better one that actually makes good tasting food, right? That one might be.
We all agreed. Over a creation tool and an ancient weapon, food is what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you can create all you want, but you still gotta feed them.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And then if you destroy everything, what am I gonna eat? I gotta keep things to make food, so first priority is the food, always.
Hey,
always the food.
If the 100 battleships show up and the first thing isn't a buster call, then this is confirmed, right? Like,
yeah.
If they don't immediately start buster calling the island, then we already know what the agenda is. Like, they want something here.
Yo, like they line up.
We got it.
Aim, ready, and then they're like about to say, and then you just hear like a booming voice. No. Not stop and then
we need their inventions.
Yeah, and then Saint J, like his conquers hockey shatters everything, and he makes it, and he Wi-Fi hockeys, and he's like, "That's it, I found it." And then he like teleports, grabs a microwave, puts it on the ship, and then they presume everything else resumes, and I'm like, we
interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think Garcia Saturn's gonna have Conqueror's hockey? Because I feel like it's very iffy. Like, I feel like he could have it, but I don't think he should. In a weird way, like I feel like we're at the point of the story where we can get characters that are just strong without Conqueror's Haki. So I feel like he might be in that boat, but I don't know.
Don't get the label Godhead.
Oh my god.
Like come on. They're leaders of the entire world. They've been ruling like people have been playing around. I have a future video coming out explaining like a nuance that people have about Conqueror's Haki that might be misinterpreted. But at the end of the day, I think we can all fall back. Like, if you've made a name for yourself, if you're like a leader and like so much so that like leading the entire world, like the Gorosei are doing that, right? And yeah, maybe they don't have it. I completely understand. I've seen some people say that, but like their titles are Godhead, and like they did demonstrate powers, like. Not having Conqueror's Haki is kind of weird.
That would be kind of, I feel that. Like I said, I think it could go either way.
Yeah.
They could have Conqueror's Haki. They don't have to have it. I just feel like the series would benefit from a couple of top tier people not having Conqueror's Haki.
So my Garling separate because he's Supreme. You don't get the name Supreme Commander. And then like of like one of the strongest groups and then not have it, right? He's the leader. But my part of my theory does, and few people that I talk to, their theories, if you guys want to know a little bit more, because I've been teasing this video, but I did spoil a little bit of it with my stream with Dax, because him and I have a similar theory, but my route is a little bit different, where that theory allows it for you to be incredibly strong and that power to exist and you to not have conquerors at all. And I could see where the Holy Knights don't have conquerors. And it all depends on the contingencies of how they are powerful, where they got their power, if they inherited the power. Like, there's so many things that we don't know, even with Garling, especially with the translation changes, where he's not the former king and he's not even a champion, right? Like the current translation is the current official translation, though I think a lot of Japanese speakers are saying champion makes sense, or hero of, but like right now it's that he distinguished himself from God Valley. So that's very different from former king, very different from hero of God Valley or champion of God Valley. So like with Garling, I'm like, he is if he's Shanks' dad, needs conquerors. If he's the Supreme Commander, conquers. And I know how you feel about Supreme Commanders and Kong and stuff like that. We talked about and I looked at the comments. I saw what I expected. A lot of people in support of Kong.
Two people. We won't go there.
I think it was three.
Yeah, 3 people. But
nobody
Kong.
Said otherwise. So it's 100% unanimous, right? That's how it works,
bro.
With his statistics.
Bro, let me tell you, the people who are hyping Kong up, the man only showed up for 3 panels in the entire series pre-time skip. There was not a single mention of Kong post-time skip.
There's not a single mention of Garling pre-time skip, and look how much we're hyping him
but
up,
he's in the final saga. Where's Kong? The timing, that's like me going back and saying, but by the way, Par, Higuma was, he was early on in One Piece.
Stop gaslighting
he had more panels
You
than
literally
Kong.
Came into like multiple conversations and streamed like actually saying Higuma was strong, and I was like, how am I supposed to receive this in Kong?
That is, see, like that's the thing. Like you can't. It's like bringing your pre-time skip character to like post-time skip. It's
Don
like
Krieg.
If they don't make a Sentomaru made a reappearance post-time skip.
Oh god,
Rob Bellucci did. Where's Kong at?
Bro.
I can't believe people are actually still talking about Kong. I saw Cole like tweeted about it, and I was like, wow, people are pushing the anti-Kong agenda. Like I didn't know that this was such a prominent thing, and I will gladly stand on the anti-Kong side.
Cole and I are always linked. Like we barely talk outside of it. When we do, it's like we connect to that Punk Records. I know whenever there's a specific thing in a chapter that happens, me and him think the same thing. There's not that many people that would read 1086 and go Kong ? And he did, and I'm like, yes. Imagine 1087 comes out. Who is leading all 100 ships?
That's like being a part of the Shu fan base and hoping he makes a big comeback one day.
Wait, Shu? Like from Orange Town, the dog?
No, Shu it's a marine captain. The one with the rust fruit.
I'm not Oh, I was like, I'm not Brago. I don't remember these guys like the back of my hand. Like,
that's just how it is. It's like, bro, like, if you really want to think about it, Shu had more screen time and more impact than Kong ever did.
No, but the thing, what? Kong is leading the 100 ships, the largest fleet of Navy ships ever to exist in the story. 100 ships, all
no,
who better to lead them than the supreme commander of the Navy?
I feel like a therapist trying to tell a kid that the boogeyman doesn't exist. Kong can't hurt you, Par. Kong's not showing up. He's not real.
The only reason why this is like a. This is a not a sentiment. What is it? Not even a thematic. It's a universal thing. Whenever there's a radical opposition to something, there needs to be a radical thing to balance it out, right? And so I want to believe in Kong even more now because of your reaction. For the day Kong shows up,
you're gaslighting the Kong agenda. Like I already know you are. Like I'm not like oblivious to it. I feel like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Like I'm like the main character for like this one brief agenda, but like, I feel like everybody's just against me on the Kong thing. Like no way, there's no way.
My favorite thing is like, you know, Shank's reaction showing 1079, 1080. I might react crazier if Kong shows up in a grand way. Bro, like I'd be like, no, he brought it, and then imagine this: like Kong comes in, the Holy Knight of the Monkey Land family, the Holy Knight, like just like Oda gives like an entire page of epithets for Kong: Supreme Commander of the Navy, former creator of God Valley. Like he wasn't a former king. No, he birthed God. Like it's some crazy ass shit.
You know you're fodder when you don't even show up in a single SBS. He hasn't shown up in a single SBS, single interview, bro. Like, what is this?
Oh, God.
He was He was only seen post-war. No notable fights under his belt. He didn't fight he didn't fight Shiki. He was not listed of fighting anybody in the Golden Era. Like, bro, like, what has this man done?
I just realized, and I kind of want to ask you this in my video, actually, which is... I think about that, right? Now that you said it like that, Kong got shown after Marineford. Like,
yeah, he wasn't even at Marineford. He wasn't even there.
For Oda to like even introduce this concept, like when you sit back, it was so unnecessary.
I feel like they just needed somebody for Sengoku to go to resign. That has to be it.
But like at the end of the day, like when you really like, yeah, I get it. Like I saw your responses to people saying like it just is a cool way to flesh out the world, make it more full, make it more realistic. Sure. But at the end of the day, if you wanted to take Kong out, it's so easy to replace what he said and did with what the Gorosei did. If anything, it would be more impactful if Sengoku ran it by the Gorosei, because then it's like the fleet admiral talking with the Gorosei, but then also the conversation that was had was about Garp being in the Marines, resigning and staying on, and it would be so much more impactful if the Gorosei were handling that, because he's a D-clan Navy vice admiral who's just like hero of it. And like when you really think about it, like why did Oda go out of his way after Marine? It was not necessary. How do we know it's not necessary? After time skip, it's like we had multiple deployments of the Navy, like, and not the Supreme Commander has not been mentioned at all. So like now that you bring it up, and again, this segues really well into what I want to talk about, which is like, why did Oda do that? That was so random.
Why is he here? Hey, we will never know. Who knows? Maybe he does make an appearance. Maybe I will have to like make an apology video for Kong, but right now, as
don't
it stands,
do it. Like,
I am firm. I am standing firm on this. I do not think this man's gonna make. He'll make an appearance. I don't want to seal me in the coffin like that. But I don't believe that he's gonna play a major role in any instance. If he shows up, he's gonna show up and be like, yep, this new generation's crazy, or he's gonna show up at Kobe's promotion, Aokiji's promotion, something like that. I feel like he'll make a comeback. He'll say something. And that's it. I think that's all he's gonna do. There ain't no way this dude's fighting somebody massive.
Oda really didn't need to do that. I don't remember exactly, but it's in the 590s where Kong shows up, and I'm thinking back on those chapters, and I'm like, there was so much going on. And I think he devoted an entire page to this thing. We saw his office. He had a celestial dragon office. I'll say it outright.
No,
we don't even know where it is.
Sunny, actually.
His office was underwater.
Like yeah.
Yeah. And like the celestial dragons don't even have that. And like he had a better view than all of them combined. And like, oh man, bro is set for life too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in terms of money, he looks loaded, and but then he's also looks like the strongest. Like he looks Kaido level physique wise. Like physique wise, there's in terms of characters that you like.
Bro,
if
he
you
looks
showed
like a knockoff Don Chinjiao.
No. Maybe Prime, but like, listen. If you took non-One Piece viewers and you show them characters and ask them who's in the same like realm of ability, you put Kaido and Kong together, they might have Kong over Kaido. Given like,
all right. Well, with that being said, hey, thank you guys for showing up to this video. this is where we're ending it.
I'm fine with that.
The minute I hear Kong praise, I'm like, we gotta cut it out now. But hey, thank you guys for showing up here. If you want to check out the later portion or the whatever topic Par has in store for us, make sure to go to his channel. He is paywalling it like a celestial dragon. We know this. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by during the break week. We plan to have these weekly, so stay tuned for next week. And peace out.